Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we're opening the City of Gardena Special Workshop City Council and Planning Commission meeting for April the 25th. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Noting the presence of all council members.
Thank you. And then we'll go to item number 2. Mr. City Manager? Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry.
We don't have,
That the Planning Commission does not currently have a quorum. However, we're going to proceed with the workshop, not necessary for them to have a quorum to be
Oh.
part of the workshop.
Okay. Thank you. And we can
Okay.
go ahead with item number
Okay.
2. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, and members of the Planning Commission. Yes, this is a workshop tonight intended to provide information regarding Prop 64 and the adult use of marijuana. I think almost every day in the newspaper, there's something about this. Some cities saying how they're going to make a whole bunch of money, or the state, passing the regulations they haven't passed, which are supposed to be passed before 2018, just as part of where the city of Gardena is relative to this currently. City currently has a prohibition against medical dispensaries in the city that was adopted a few years ago after that act was passed. We, in December, passed a moratorium on all uses and other than the personal uses for cultivation or dispensing within the city, a moratorium that extends until December 13th of 2017. Purpose tonight is to provide council with information and commission with information because there are regulatory aspects that we will have to deal with either prior to December the 13th of 2017 or shortly thereafter. As you may recall and will be brought up tonight, the state is in the process of putting their regulations together, and it doesn't seem to be moving quickly. It is a dual regulatory situation, and as such, we want to make sure that we have all the information to make the policy decisions relative to how the city of Gardena will proceed for the best benefit of the city and for the community. Two presentations tonight. The first one by Mark Eaton, HDL companies. They provided information to quite a few organizations throughout the state. Mark is the Cannabis Compliance Manager for HDL, and also a presentation on public safety considerations by Chief Medrano, who's been up and down the state talking about Prop 64 within many board meetings. So at this time, I'd like to bring Matthew up to start his presentation. Following the presentations, we'll have open for questions and discussion regarding next steps in policy.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time and the opportunity to be able to speak with you guys regarding this topic. My name is Matthew Eaton. I'm the Cannabis Compliance Manager for HDL Companies. Very brief background on myself. I've been in law enforcement for 30 years. I started in law enforcement in Southern California and later moved to Colorado. And in 2011, I had the opportunity to be one of the first criminal investigators hired to help advise the legislative session on rule development for marijuana enforcement. I was hired with the Department of Revenue Marijuana Enforcement Division, where I supervised the Denver Metro office and Longmont Field office with regards to the inspection protocols, risk assessment on the businesses, and addressing public safety issues at the local level. During that time, I conducted training with about 271 local law enforcement and government agencies with regards to implementation of their local requirements. And then in January or December 31st of this year, I retired and came to HDL. Well, HDL is a company of 30 plus years. We have a 400 cities that we contract with, and primarily we do tax ordinance, tax compliance, tax recovery, and assessment for government, both local and county agencies. Currently, we have about 44 cities and counties that we are currently working with to consult regarding some level of marijuana implementation, whether it's helping them deal with a ban or work forward with the ordinance. So during that time, we have built some really good relationships with the chiefs of police. Recently, we spoke at multiple sessions throughout the state, helping the chiefs of police understand the impact of the new regulations that are coming. And we also are the lead consultant for the League of Cities. Myself, during the time that I've worked, I've done approximately 10,000 compliance and criminal inspections with regards to the regulated industry in Colorado and here in California. Very briefly, I want to talk about the timeline here. Really, I want to focus the attention in 1996, where you got the Compassionate Use Act, and not a lot was done in California until the next milestone in 2013. The Cole memo was issued, and what ended up happening is Colorado and Washington had both passed recreational use laws and were asking for some guidance through the federal administration on what they were planning to do if we moved forward with some type of recreational ordinances. And in response to that, U.S. Attorney Cole wrote a memo to Washington and Colorado providing guidance with regards to the enforcement priorities and where they were going to spend their time and resources in states that had legalized either medical or retail. And then in 2015, you have the adoption of the two, both medical and then 2016, the UMA. So I mentioned the federal guidance. The Cole memo basically says that the federal government at the time would not devote time and resource or allocate any funds towards the enforcement of marijuana prosecution in states that had a robust regulatory system unless there was diversion to minors. The regulated system was used as a front for criminal enterprises. There was diversion. It was firearms involved. It was directly related to drug driving. It was growing on public lands or federal lands. So with that said, Colorado at the time and Washington soon to follow had started to adopt some very strict and robust regulations. And it's those regulations and how the state and local governments work that I want to spend the bulk of my time here today. So Assembly Bill 266, first and foremost, what I want to kind of emphasize to you guys is that you have the option at a local level to make decisions on how you want this industry to look in your jurisdiction. You can have a complete ban, or you can have some level, some type of industry, and that would be one of the multiple licenses, any or all of them. And but if you choose to ban, you still have to, there's still a delivery issue that it becomes a particular problem. You cannot ban deliveries from going through your city and using streets, but in order to prohibit, if you do not want deliveries in your town, you have to explicitly prohibit it. If there is permissive laws or you do not expressly prohibit that, then the deliveries will be allowed to continue in your jurisdiction. So home grows. One of the kind of big misunderstandings is that if a local jurisdiction decides to ban marijuana, well, that doesn't mean that the local jurisdiction still, they still have to take some time and devote some resources to addressing the impact of marijuana in your area. And that is in the form of indoor or personal cultivations. And you can ban outdoor. You cannot completely ban indoor. But what I would like and encourage you to think about is how you want the indoor personal use to look like in your jurisdiction. You can, at the bottom there, it says local government can regulate or ban all outdoor, but you cannot ban the 6 plants that are allowed indoor. However, you can reasonably regulate, and reasonably regulate, though, has not been defined. What I would encourage you to do is consider a few things. If you're going to address indoor cultivation, you may want to consider ordinances that restrict the cultivation to a particular area, maybe 100 square feet of continuous space, so that they don't have plants throughout the entire house. If there's children in the house, you may require that that continuous space be locked and secured at all times. You may want to prohibit the cultivation from taking place in common areas, bathrooms, kitchens, hallways, living rooms, things like that, making sure that it is, again, locked and secure and safe for if it's in the house with a child. You can also address the size of the plant. Marijuana plants, although typically indoor plants do not get large, but you could have a room of 6 plants that are 6 feet tall, and that takes up a lot of space. And these are all things that you would want to address in an ordinance. So balancing policy decisions. Both medical and retail ordinance or laws that were recently passed allow local jurisdictions to either totally allow businesses, and you could select which businesses you choose, or you could have a complete ban on those businesses. And again, when you're banning the businesses, you're not banning marijuana from being grown in your jurisdiction. What you're doing is you're banning the commercial sales, manufacturing, transportation, cultivation, and sales again. So here's the different categories: cultivation, manufacturing, testing, dispensary or retail, distribution. You can choose yes or no on all of those, none of them, medical, retail, commercial. Just want to show this real briefly. The Department of Agriculture did a survey, sent out a survey and asked for a response, and in Los Angeles County, this was the response. 576 wanted small cultivations. I believe that's 385 wanted medium-sized cultivations, and 381 wanted large cultivations. So there is some interest for the regulated model in Los Angeles County. I do not have the specific numbers for Gardena. And again, I just want to explain that if you choose, there are a number of, there's 10 different types of cultivation licenses, and then you have a dispensary, a manufacturer, again, testing labs, transporters, and distributors. But what's most important is local jurisdictions, because there is dual licensing, the local jurisdiction gets to choose and gets to define what that industry looks like if you choose to have it, or you can choose to completely ban it. And again, it's the same things I just covered. So what I want to talk about is first choosing to move forward with some type of industry in your jurisdiction. We like to say this, and I will support this a variety of times, is that policies designed today will help shape how your industry looks tomorrow. And that's really important, because if you choose to allow it in your jurisdiction, that dual licensing allows you to have a say in what it looks like, how it meets your needs, your goals, what your community desires. And that can be in a variety of different forms. What is important, and my one example from Colorado is, if you don't take the right steps in moving forward and making really strong decisions, what ends up happening is something similar to this. In 2016, 44 legislative bills were offered to the Assembly. 22 passed. Those 22 bills changed 124 laws and rules. 90% of those were directly related to some type of public safety issue. That's really important, because in order to get buy-in from local government and law enforcement and a true understanding of the industry and how the industry is supposed to work, if you're changing 224 laws and rules every year, it's disastrous, because you can't get buy-in and you can't get any true understanding of what that path to success. there should be, if you choose to have it in your jurisdiction, a really good working relationship with the industry. The goal is that you want them successful, so you're successful. The more successful they are, the less work you have, the less calls for service for quality of life issues that the police department have. And then the better defined that industry is within your jurisdiction, the easier it is for law enforcement to be able to address the illegal operators and to weed them out from the compliant operators and move forward with successful prosecution. So in order to avoid that 124 rule changes at the end of the year, this is that path to success that whether you ban it or not, you really need to follow these steps in this order to help first inform yourself and then get to that reasonable regulation. So education, collaboration, legislation, and regulation. First and foremost, and like you're doing today, you want to educate yourself. You want to be able to have some really informed conversations when you move forward and collaborate with the industry. They're going to talk to you about their needs or wants or desires or what they expect the industry to look like. And if you don't understand, if you're not speaking the same language, you really have a difficult time. So first and foremost, you need to educate yourself. You need to take the department heads and talk to the police department and zoning, building, community development. Get all of their intake of what they would expect the industry to look like before you move forward, and then collaborate with the external stakeholders and sit down with them and get a feel for what they want, what they expect, how the industry should look at their end. Once you have that open line of communication, then if you are required to move forward, then legislation is written reasonably and sensibly, and it is done with a lot of forethought. So as you take that next step into regulation, they're enforceable and they're defensible and they're systematic, and they create a really clear path for success both for the city and for the industry itself. So at a local level, when you decide to move forward with some type of regulation at a local level, local jurisdictions need to be concerned with time, place, and manner. Time and place are kind of self-evident. Hours of operation, so it fits the needs and the makeup of that community, the culture of the community. The place, zoning, you want to take in consideration the type of license, whether it's a manufacturer or it's a sales location or a cultivator, and make sure that they're properly zoned. The better thought that's put into the beginning of that, the less quality of life and complaints you're going to receive. But that manner is the really important thing that helps each jurisdiction really dictate what that industry will look like. So hours of operation, again, self-evident, business location, but that the manner goes into a variety of different things: signage, advertisement, curbside appeal. What's the business look like? What is the impact on the community? What does the community see when they drive down the street? What do they smell? What type of lights? What type of noise? What's the vehicle and pedestrian traffic that's going on around there? Reporting requirements, holding them accountable, making them account for who their employees are and the type of sensitive areas that are in their building and who has access to them, the inventory tracking. And then badging requirements. To go back to the Cole memo, that Cole memo wants to make sure that the industry is not hiring criminals, drug cartels as a front to come in and work in these businesses. So you would want to do a business background and a financial and criminal background on the people that have direct financial interest in the business, and then all the people that have some type of involvement in the business. You would probably, in order to honor the desires of the Cole memo, do a business background and then maybe issue a business permit or an ID or an employee permit to allow them in sensitive use or sensitive areas. So as you move forward, not only do you have to worry about the actual specific industry, but you have to worry and address the concerns with the ancillary businesses that are popping up and that are dealing with it. So unpermitted construction activity, vendors and consultants, all of these people are going to be dealing with a business. You have a business and that you've permitted, whether it's through a conditional use permit or some vetting purpose, and then they're constantly changing and creating hazardous environments and work conditions because they don't have proper building code permits. So those are things that you want to address. In your ordinance, you want to address some type of access control, like limited access areas, to make sure that the right people are in those areas, and you're keeping the people that have no business in them, underage, criminals, people that don't have a legal right to be around the marijuana, away from them. You want to create some type of law enforcement access requirements on inspection, holding them accountable and making sure that in that regulatory system that they're meeting the goals and the objectives of that you put forward in the ordinance. And then just investigation and inspection protocols. You would want to consider during your vetting purpose of the business how they fit in, and are they a good neighbor? Or do they have a good plan for working with their neighbors to address problems, quality of life issues like that noise, the sights, the smells? And then, of course, you want to, in any regulatory framework, you would want to be able to have a defined way of addressing non-compliant activities and making sure that those are clearly defined and transparent so the industry has an understanding of what that path of success is. So public consumption, whether you ban it or not, there's still public consumption, and those are things that you need to address and consider. Marijuana can be smoked anywhere. A cigarette may be smoked, and then I believe the chief will be discussing very briefly some other concerns regarding that. So moving forward on a total ban, let's say you decide to keep it out of your jurisdiction. There are things that you still may want to consider with regards to the industry. One of the things that started popping up in Colorado was tour groups and hospitality issues, a bed and breakfast. Let's say someone takes a old hotel that is not doing well. They buy the property, they put a couple $1 million into the property and create a business model where the customers come, they check in, they get some marijuana, the marijuana on their pillow. They have a social hour during the evening, and they get a care package as they leave. Well, that is completely legal unless you create some ordinances in your banned jurisdiction that prohibits any other business model taking activity on without a state and local license. The same with tour groups. There was a jurisdiction in the mountains, a tourist town up in Colorado that had banned it. However, what ended up happening is tourists in droves were lining up in parking lots, and there were tour buses picking them up by the hundreds, driving them down to Denver for an hour or so, driving around to the different businesses, getting them good and baked, bringing them back up to the banned jurisdiction and dropping them off for them to cause problems throughout the town with car break-ins and quality of life issues. And that jurisdiction, in addition to the ban, needed to address the tour companies and their questionable operations, and that was an issue that no one had really considered. Special events, social events, there are going to be weddings that are completely catered to marijuana, marijuana gifts and marijuana prizes, and what if they lease your city property, or they lease a school, or they have a special event, 420, they want to take the drive-in theater and turn it into a giant party, outdoor party. These are all things that you would want to kind of predict and address up front before you have to make those decisions. One of the big issues is diversion and the secondary access to legal marijuana, which we would call the gray market. Rental cars and hotels. In Colorado, there was a large tourist, and the people that came in, they bought their marijuana, they were reasonable, and they didn't take it on the plane or didn't drive it out of state. Well, what do they do with it? They leave it in the cars, and they leave it in their hotel rooms. For the hospitality staff or the cleaning staff to pick it up. There was an incident in Colorado where a Eastern European lady didn't speak English, was cleaning one of the hotel rooms and found a large amount of edible chocolates that were infused and had collected all those, and she had a heart condition. And by the time they got her to the hospital down in Denver, she had passed away. And that particular issue was one of the reasons why one of the bills last year required universal symbols placed on all packaging and all edible items. So it's those things that couldn't have been predicted that we were constantly going back to rulemaking. And my warning to everyone is try to think outside the box and think about the other things that will impact both the public safety and public health. And then the youth exposure and access at grow sites I just spoke to. Make sure that with those 6 plants that people are allowed, that they do it reasonable, and that you come up with some type of reasonable regulation and expectation to allow these people to continue to grow as the law allows them to, but that they do it responsibly. And then as you move forward, there's still a black market, and we saw that if our tax rates were really high, the tendency for black market ends up increasing. And after doing a market survey and a production cap, we tapered down the state tax rate by 1.5%, and we saw that there was a reduction of that gray market, the legal purchases into the black market. So I just want to let you know that the decision is yours, and you have the opportunity to ask some very informed questions, to collaborate both internally and externally, and I encourage you to take the opportunity ahead of time before you're forced and you run out of time and don't have those opportunities to be as informed. Take that path straight through and make sure that you collect all the right data and information. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. Good evening, Mayor Serta, members of the City Council. I'm going to do my presentation with a little bit of a different twist. As the city manager indicated, on behalf of the California Police Chiefs, I was throughout the state talking about marijuana because we were opposed to Prop 64. And now we're very highly involved in the regulatory process and trying to make that work, because in addition to recreational, we have the medical marijuana regulations. And right now, the state is looking at how we're going to merge those two regulatory processes to become one. So we don't have a system that Colorado had, which is one process for medical and one process for recreational. As it stands right now, it's a work in progress, and it may have an overall impact on what we do here in our community. I will tell you this, as he indicated, Colorado went through a lot of different changes in their legislation. My last check, there's over 50 bills related to marijuana currently in our state legislature going through the works. So as you can well imagine, this is a very complex piece of public policy. And I think California will go through a number of iterations before we get it as right as we can possibly get it. But nonetheless, we have to keep our eye on what changes occur that will affect Gardena. And he briefly mentioned, I kind of break down the things that we're looking at in Gardena into 5 major categories. Although there's a number of sub-licenses, there's 5 major categories that has to do with cultivation, manufacturing, distribution, testing, and retail sales. And I'm going to speak to some of those briefly, but I will tell you I don't have a long PowerPoint. I have more pictures to kind of show you exactly what I'm talking about. All of these things have different effects, but it's very important in his presentation to understand that ban, non-ban, different things that we set up, there's a lot of offshoots that we have to regulate. Even if something as simple that we can't control the grows inside the house, how we make sure that we have inspection processes and permitting processes and safety considerations so that things that we can't control, we at least do our best to minimize the public impact in our community. Some of these slides here have some, really answer some questions that I've been hearing from the community a lot, and hopefully will be informational to you as well. So can we switch to the next PowerPoint, please? While we're switching, just kind of as background, data as of September 2016, when we're talking about Colorado, 272 municipalities in Colorado, 234 of those municipalities had taken some kind of action regarding recreational marijuana. 75% of those, or 168, have a moratorium, and 25% have allowed. In the counties, there's 62 counties, 63% have prohibited or have a moratorium, and 37% have allowed. So I give that to you as context to say that just because Colorado has had this, that doesn't mean all jurisdictions have bought in. And municipalities, it's roughly only about 25%, which is probably what spurred much of this touring industry. So, a lot of questions from the community. What has really changed with the law? These are things that we cannot control, but I think it's important for community and council to understand. Possession of cannabis before under was a $100 fine, which is basically an infraction. Now it's legal. Possession of 8 grams of concentrate was a misdemeanor, and now it's legal. Cultivation of 6 plants, which was a felony before, is now legal if you're, as long as you comply with the 6 plants and under. 6 plants and over was a felony. Now it's a misdemeanor. Possession of cannabis for sale, that's over 26 grams, I believe it is now a misdemeanor. Same thing for transportation with that quantity. And then subsequent offenses, which were all prior felonies or wobblers, which can be handled as a felony or a misdemeanor. So as you can see, the criminal penalties for marijuana have significantly reduced throughout the state. A lot of questions about where you can use marijuana, and as indicated, essentially the best rule to think about is if you can legally smoke tobacco there, you're pretty much entitled to smoke it, with the exception of driving in a motor vehicle and having an open container in a motor vehicle in possession of under an ounce of marijuana. Now, one thing we have a problem because we have yet to define is what is a sealed container for marijuana, and that's one of the bills that's going through is how do we define transportation in a sealed environment as far as marijuana goes. So some of these public safety concerns have been addressed, but I want to speak to you from a perspective of Gardena. And my experiences here in Gardena, being actively involved in many of our operations, going out there and firsthand witnessing some of the grows, some of the complaints from community, those things. I've asked and I've been made aware of all the time our special operations units go out there because I want to see what the impacts are going to be and what, more importantly, surrounding businesses and residences are talking about. Because as we all know, Gardena is pretty much like 97% built out. There's not a lot of space, and some of these grows have a direct impact environmentally to the surrounding businesses. I will tell you this, most of our large-scale illegal grows came to us as a result of complaints. Business owners who have this business next to them, and there's just, as much as they try to mask the smell and other things that are associated with the cultivation, there's an environmental impact because people smell it. It's very strong. It permeates throughout. And businesses don't like to have their businesses next to that, and it's been problematic. Speaking with a number of businesses next to our large-scale grows, they were very unhappy. Their employees were very happy. The last one we did on Alma, the owner said, my employees were just like, didn't want to come to work anymore because they didn't want to have to deal with the smell all day long, and they'd go home smelling like marijuana. So there are some considerations there that have to be concerned. The residential grows is my experience with talking with the Attorney General or the Assistant Attorney General from Colorado, as well as law enforcement officials in Washington, and many presentations I've been to, is residential grows is 6, but quickly can become 60 if not well regulated and inspected. And keep in mind, who's going to be the 6th plant and under police? It's going to be staff here at Gardena monitoring that, because the state's not going to be monitoring those grows here in Gardena. So setting up the right regulatory schemes to ensure that we have compliance and we can schedule inspections, et cetera, is really important. Remember, this is a regulation. It's not like we can come in at any time and break in somebody's house. Let me see, do you have 6? We have to give them notice, and we have to be invited in. Diversion in the black market is something very has been a big problem in Colorado. Specifically, recently had a presentation about other organized crime groups that come into Colorado, grow there, and are diverting all of that marijuana to states who do not have recreational use, because there's huge profit to be made in it, and none of that is taxed. It's completely diverted on the black market to states, even out. It's not just for consumption in Colorado; it's consumption for out of state because they don't have access to it. And marijuana can be very, very expensive in some of those states, especially some of the high quality marijuana that's produced in these sophisticated grows. We talked about illegal business activities. I want to ensure that we have something in place in Gardena, because January 1st, 2018, the state's going to be issuing licenses. If we don't have something in place, they're going to move forward with issuing licenses. Although it's a dual regulatory scheme, we're going to have to, follow up and try to get them into compliance, rather having our regulations there, if we allow it, so that it's not just a state license, it's our local process, and we're both, and the people who are opening these businesses are fully aware of what's going to occur. The other part is, if we're not, they'll issue the licenses, and we have to go back and try to get everyone in compliance if we can, and which is not, obviously an ideal situation. Many of these businesses, all of the businesses deal primarily in cash, and as we've seen in other states, there's a tendency to have increased violence and robberies, et cetera. And I'll show you some pictures in a minute of what we've experienced here in some of our things. And everyone knows that, and the network in that culture knows who's growing illegally, what their security is like, and there seems to be a lot of ripping off from each other on the illegal side, not necessarily the legal ones. As I mentioned, organized crime elements clearly play a part. California is different. We already have a problem with drug trafficking organizations along the border. Most of the drugs that come into California come through California ports of entry. That's why drugs in California are much cheaper than they are in, let's say, the Midwest or other parts of the country, because we're the source. And from here, it all gets distributed everywhere. And if you don't think that organized crime, especially drug trafficking organizations, have money to be made here, whether on the legal or illegal side, you're kidding yourself, because we know that they're going to be highly invested. Where there's money and there's profit, organized crime is going to somehow get them involved in there. I've increased experiences in admittance to emergency room hospitals for overdose, and there's some significant public health concerns. As mentioned before, an edible has let's just say it's a cookie, for example. A serving size in a cookie may be 1/4 of the cookie. I love cookies. I don't eat a 1/4 of a cookie. And, you eat it, it takes a while to digest. You're not getting the effect. They have more and more of it. That's why some of the changes in Colorado has been very specific for the packaging, because, you consume the whole amount, and the serving size is, whatever, 1/4 or a half. Because you have that delayed reaction, all of a sudden you're very, very, very high on that edible. And I'll show you some pictures of those as well. California law enforcement is really concerned about drug driving. California doesn't have a per se for marijuana. It doesn't have a presumptive marijuana for alcohol, for example. We all know it's 0.08. What is that for California? There is none. And there's currently not legislation in place to make that the presumptive. We'd like to see that. More importantly, our tests for marijuana are very archaic. They're not in line. We're doing some studies, some beta testing on some different methods, but we don't have a breathalyzer for marijuana. There's some oral fluids testing that's showing some promise and other things, but we have recreational marijuana, but not the laws or the technology to enforce drug driving, and that's of serious concern. As I mentioned, the environmental concerns, the smell, the increased traffic, especially in some of the communities, especially when we have illegal activities in residential, like the grows go from 6 to 60 and they're selling and doing all that stuff, you do get a lot of quality of life complaints. We've had them here. Even on the businesses, on the large scale production facilities, as I mentioned, as much as they try, there's that, it just expands outside of the walls, and it becomes increasingly a problem for surrounding businesses. And then, finally, we're going to have to pay for this, and the enforcement part, although, there's a lot of comment about how much money you're going to make, but there's also cost to enforcing it and regulating and making sure that the quality of life here in Gardena remains the same. So I'm going to show you some examples because maybe you have not experienced this firsthand. I will tell you, the pictures I'm going to show you do not do it justice. It is very incredible when you go into some large-scale grows. We went to a large-scale grow with 60,000 square feet, and it was very impressive. For example, this is kind of like what you may see in a really small grow. You can do this in a small bedroom. These are from a residential grow. You can see there, it's just small. There's the lighting, there's the ventilation, the humidity, all of the things that require, good growth environment for the plants. They also need to be like super fertilized in order to get that quantity and quality, the higher levels of THC. It doesn't happen by pouring water and just growing them under the sunlight. It's got to be very specifically regulated with the right fertilizers to enhance their growth. A larger grow looks like something like this. If you can imagine, that's probably about 150 square feet on the left by maybe 25 or 30 feet wide. This one's a smaller picture of a grow, but it actually goes back way farther, the angle. But that's kind of what it looks like. The smaller plants on the left as they get bigger on the right. And then they go full on, huge ones. This one's, the plants are getting a little bigger on the left. This one to the right in the middle with a yellow hue there, that's the lighting, the optimal lighting to have them grow as fast as they possibly can. That is actually a huge warehouse with a very high-tech lighting, irrigation, and fertilizer mix, amazingly controlled by computers, and a lot of money invested in the outcome of that, because that's a lot of money right there. That's just a lot of money in a plant material. They can get at that one onto the right where they're taller, as you see. As you mentioned, they can get bigger. I've seen them a lot bigger than that. Those are roughly about 4 feet, 5 feet. They get much thicker too as well. So 6 plants in a house can get pretty big if unregulated. It's not uncommon when we do these. This is kind of what we see. Money, lots of cash money counters, bills stacked up. They deal everything with cash because of the federal banking laws, and it's a very attractive for people who want to rip them off and take those large sums of cash. They use a lot of chemicals. Those big storage tanks hold the water and solution that has a lot of these high potent chemicals that make them grow. Making sure that we have a process that if we do allow it, that they're disposing of that chemical waste in a proper manner, and it's not going down into our sewer systems. It's an industrial waste. That's what it really is, and they're pretty strong. And they use quite a few of them. A lot of them. I mean, I don't know what half of them do, but as you see in the one in the center of the bottom, it's large quantities of chemicals that they use to enhance the growth. Those are all, by the way, pictures in Gardena. These are all things that we have taken in Gardena. This is not anywhere up north. This is right here in our community over the last year or two. And then what are the retail sales? These are not Gardena because, we're not in Gardena and we don't allow this. But, this is what you're going to expect. This is going to be, attention-grabbing advertising, cannabis station. This is a big mart, weed mart. It's an entire, understand it's like a mall. It's the weed mart. This is a smaller one, a little smoke shop at the end. What do they look like on the inside? This is kind of what they look like on the inside. Everything from, the buds here on the right and those little canisters to edibles to anything else that you can imagine you can put marijuana into, a THC into, and through an extraction, they'll put it in there. It could be a candy bar, it could be a cookie, we used to joke around the brownies, that's sort of passe. Anything that's easily injected and infused with THC can be and is very easy to consume. And ultimately, you have to pay close attention to what it is, number one, and two, the potency. In fact, the last slides I'll show you is, these are public service announcements in Colorado. Can you spot the pot? Marijuana candy trick or treat, and this is important for kids to understand that it may not be a jelly bean, it may be something else. And the other ones on that, don't let a candy bar ruin your vacation. Consume responsibly is probably to deal with some of the touring industry that's coming into Colorado. So, in our community, there's a lot of things to consider. I am personally concerned that, with such a built-out city and already with an over-proliferation of alcohol sale locations and liquor stores and the complaints we get from those and other things, that adding this will just, degrade our quality of life in Gardena. Yes, am I biased to this? Absolutely. I am concerned about the safety of our community and the quality of life here. And I think that to the extent that we can regulate the best and eliminate as much as possible, it would be in our best interest. So thank you, and we'll both be here to answer questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Do we have any questions or comments from anybody here on the council? Let's
Comments.
start with Councilman Tanaka.
I was a policeman with the city of Gardena. The chief talks about how some of these places in our industrial area, especially in District 1, have grows, and that was recently within the last 3 years. We were experiencing these commercial grows in the 12,000 square foot places in District 1 in the industrial with huge hydroponic plants. And we're talking 6-foot plants, probably hundreds of them. The problem is the regulation. Who's going to regulate all this? We don't find out these places until someone complains because of the smell emanating from the ducts coming out of the roof. And that's how we got most of them. But we don't realize how much is this going to cost us in additional enforcement? Who's going to be the marijuana police? Who's going to be the one that regulates a home where we have kids in them and we don't know what they're growing or where they're growing them? Crime will increase, I'm sure. I have a good friend in Colorado. Son was an A student. When marijuana became legal, he started to experiment. He got so bad that he went to one and robbed the place and got shot. So these are the things that we need to start thinking about, whether we want quality of life to be different in Gardena by having marijuana sales places. So when you're thinking about this, is it about the money or is it about our life in our city? I'm not sure how you can get tax money from people that are taking cash when it's one for them and maybe 10 cents for us. But it's really something to think about, and don't think about the dollar signs. Think about our lives, our community, and how it affects our children and the way that we live.
Okay, Councilman Medina. I'm sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Well, one of the things that, after hearing this presentation, as far as logic is concerned, we need to concentrate on all the mistakes that Colorado made, needless to say. And we don't want to do the same mistakes for obvious reasons. Along with what Councilman Tanaka said, utilizing all the mistakes that were made in Colorado would probably help us out as well. So we won't do those mistakes. We can have better regulation, better control, and at the same time, we're probably waiting for the state of California to come up with their mandates as well, and hopefully they won't be the same as the ones from Colorado. So I would highly suggest that we definitely research this and ask a lot of questions as to what the mistakes were in Colorado, the downfalls of Colorado, not necessarily the positive ones, but the downfalls with regards to, as he explained earlier, a child getting shot over buying marijuana. So if we can stop all that before it actually becomes law in Gardena, I would really support that.
Councilmember Henderson?
First of all, I want to thank Mr. Eaton and the chief for these presentations. Having kind of been looking at this industry and kind of looking at tours and looking at facilities, I think as a city, we need to figure out, because it is a complex issue, but I think as a city, we also want to make sure that we kind of control our own destiny in regards to what the state's going to do prior to January. I think we have to look at two different tracks, but look at them simultaneously. The recreational side, since now you can do a personal grow, 6 plants or less. I'm not sure how we're going to regulate that. We have to figure that out. But on the medical side, the cultivation and manufacturing, because it's all cash, but as I've been looking at the industry, they're looking at ways to try to remove some of the cash out of the business to make sure that it's just actually almost like a supply chain. So it becomes every package is RFID tagged, and so we know where its movement is tracking throughout the process. The facility that I had the fortunate to take a tour of and look at, a lot of my questions were the environmental impacts, because as you stated, Chief, they use some heavy-duty chemicals to get these plants 6 feet tall. I thought I was in the redwoods for a little bit. I mean, these things were humongous. And what do they do with that waste? You can't just pour it down the drain. It becomes hazardous material. So where is this thing going? But as a city, I think we want to act sooner rather than later in regards to trying to catch up with the state of California. So we want to make sure that we are in charge of our own destiny. So I think we should really study and look at, as Mayor Pro Tem Medina said, look at some of the gaps that the state of Colorado had. I think we can look at a mix down the pyramid in regards to whether we have retail sales. I think if we do retail sales, I don't think that's a good look for our community, because it becomes a quality of life issue in regards to where these locations would be. Our city's about 97, 98% built out. We have manufacturing space. Can we regulate the manufacturing space to figure out what we can do there? So as Councilman Tanaka said, we don't want to focus on the potential monetary benefits, but we need to kind of get in front of this as best we can. So at least if there is some cultivation and not dispensary, but manufacturing testing, that we actually have to stay in control of that as best we can. So I think we should really get on this as soon as we can.
Councilmember Cascania?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Eaton, Chief Medrano, thank you for the nice presentation. My major concern is how are we going to control the growth in the city? You showed us earlier pictures, and it's illegal in the city, and all these chemicals with the gallons, and so can we imagine if we legalize it, what's going to happen? And my concern is, monetary-wise, we forget the benefits. We're not going to have any benefits because it's all cash money. And Mr. Eaton, earlier you mentioned that we can allow, maybe if we don't allow sales or opening the dispensaries, we can allow the trafficking of the cannabis. Obviously, I don't want to see any, drug dealing in my city. So, that's a concern too. I live in the city. 6 days out of 7 days in the week, I'm in the city. So I don't like to see, because, I go to the businesses too, and sometimes, yes, I do smell that employees probably they went to the bathroom or somewhere in the backyard, or they're smoking, and that bothers me. And it happens few times. Yes, I will quit working. I will quit going to the businesses over there. So it's a major issue for me personally. And before we take any steps, I guess we have to look into it and just make sure that our city be a safe city. So I don't want no drug dealings or any issues in the city of Gardena. Thank you.
Go ahead, Chief.
Yeah, I just spoke with Mr. Eaton. I just want to clarify one thing so it's not lost in translation. The state regulations are way up here. For us, they're going to have very little effect on what we decide we want to do and the specific regulations we want to have locally. That's why it's a dual scheme. Their regulations are very much focused on the 17 types of licenses, what each license can do, you know, all of the taxation and tracking and all of these other things that are a little bit higher level. And then at the lower level is what communities want to specially impose for community standards. So they're two different things. We can't wait until the state issues their final regulations. Or even if they do them reasonable amount of time, maybe we can look at them, of course, stay in tune to them. But it does not, it's a higher level. We need to look at what the local restrictions we want to put in different, specifically not necessarily in line with what the state is. That's much of, you know, they're dealing with the whole state and all of the regulatory issues with the state. This is like, it's kind of like our own zoning law, you know?
Thank you. I have a couple of questions for Mr. Eaton. The first question is, in regards to Colorado, if this is a cash-based business, how are they taxing that? Are they just kind of going on good faith, what they estimated at, or what?
That's a really good question. So in Colorado specifically, we have an inventory tracking system that tracks all plants from seed to sale. So the second that it's put in the ground, whether it's in a seed or a clone, it follows that plant through the growing stages, the clone, the veg, the flower, harvest. Once it's harvested, it gets a package tag or a batch, and then it moves forward, and then it could either go for sales or it could go for extraction. The trim can be extracted, and every time it changes forms, it gets a new package number, and that package number gets followed. So in addition to what the chief just said, the state is going to address very specific, broad-ranging rules. It's going to be the inventory tracking, the package and labeling, the safety requirements, that, you know, the statements and things like that. Those are the state requirements. Well, also, I would suspect it's not done yet, but Colorado, what they did was they taxed it based off a per pound. So at $1,846 per pound, it gets taxed, and then there is a sales and excise tax at the time that the point of purchase. So there's like a wholesale tax. All of that is done through, we have a regulatory system. Our regulatory tax enforcement people on a regular basis check the inventory tracking, and in addition to the inventory tracking, followed the point of sale purchases, and then figured out through that what was to be reported, and conducted their regulatory investigations and collected tax based off of that. California will be something very similar. The difficulty is right now banking. They're addressing banking as we speak. There was something just in the newspaper today about San Francisco trying to develop their own bank. That's yet to be seen. It is a cash business, and it is very problematic. At a local level, you could do financial audits at the end of the year to try to figure out. At the state level, we would have to wait until there's some type of defined banking and some type of defined inventory tracking to be able to track that adequately.
Okay, thank you. The second question I had was, you mentioned about transportation as far as it being transported through your city. Let's just say maybe our neighboring cities decide that they'll allow, you know, this sort of use. Are the trucks then, do they have some type of signage so you know that as they're passing through, or
No.
you don't?
They can be transported in anything. They could be an armored vehicle, it could be a panel van, it could be Subaru. They could be transported in anything. The goal is that the transporters really don't want to transport mass quantities, but there is a difference between delivery systems and transportation. The transportation is going to be a cultivator sending a large quantity to a distributor, either through a distributor or through a transporter, to be stored, sent off to testing laboratories, brought back, and then sent out for the sales locations. A delivery is someone called up to a sales location and made a purchase, and now that person is going to drive it out to a home in your jurisdiction. That is allowed unless it's explicitly prohibited. But there's a big difference between transportation and the delivery system.
Okay, thank you. And the last question I have, because I know we have to get on to our next council meeting, is for the chief here. Right now, if you were to pull somebody over right now, suspecting that maybe they were under the use of marijuana, are you able to test it in any way, or are you just kind of visually looking at them?
Yeah,
curious.
you can test it in urine, but there's no like easy test for it. And you basically arrest them on their impairment level, and but you can't. I don't want to get too technical, but marijuana is the active ingredient in marijuana that makes you impaired is delta 9 THC, and it's measured in nanograms per milliliter. There's no set standard on what the impairment level is. Is it 6, 9, 10 nanograms? It's not. We don't have that in California, and it's taken. Colorado and Washington have played with the number back and forth. So it's based on objective symptoms and their driving behavior to get a conviction for that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I think at this time, all the questions and comments have been answered. And if there's nothing else to report, Mr. City Manager, at this time, we are going to adjourn this meeting here, this special workshop city council meeting here. We're going to adjourn to our next meeting, we're going to take a 3-minute break, and then we will reconvene at that time. So we are adjourned right now. Don't go far. A 3-minute break.
turn this mic.
Testing 1, 2.
Okay, we're going to begin tonight's City of Gardena regular city council meeting for April 25th. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Noting the presence of all council members.
Thank you. Tonight, we did not have closed session, and first up, we're going to have our Pledge of Allegiance tonight. First one is Edelyn and Nathaniel. Please come forward. And everyone, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please face the flag. Put your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for invocation tonight by Reverend Herrera.
Well, my vocation in Spanish. He says a translation for me. Agradecemos a Dios
We are here to say thank you, God, for being here,
por la alcaldesa Tacha Cerda
for the Mayor Tasha Sarda and all her hard work, and
y su honorable corporación de Gardina.
thank you for the invitation here in the city of Gardena, for the invocation that we're gonna make out.
Señor, te damos gracias
Lord, we are thankful
por esta reunida en este lugar.
to be reuniting here in this place.
Te damos gracias por nuestra alcaldesa
We are thankful for our Mayor Tasha Sarda
y todos los miembros del concilio de la ciudad de Gardina,
and all the members of the council of the city of Gardena,
empleados y administradores.
employer and administrators.
Te damos gracias
We are thankful
por el Departamento de Policía,
for the police department,
por su ardua labor
for the well and hard labor
y su dedicación por servir a nuestra comunidad.
and dedication of serving this city.
Por el Departamento de Bomberos,
Also for the department, fire department,
médicos
doctors,
y todos los que contribuyen para el bienestar de nuestra ciudad.
and all the contribution of this city.
Te damos gracias, Señor,
We are thankful
por todos los educadores de nuestra comunidad,
for all the educators for this city,
escuelas, colegios, centros vocacionales,
all the school, preschool, elementary school, colleges, and all the vocational centers
por ayudar a engrandecer nuestra ciudad,
to help the city to enlarge
dedicados a la educación de nuestros niños, jóvenes y
for
adultos.
the best education for our children, adolescents, and adults.
Te damos gracias
Lord, we get thankful
por todos los empresarios,
for the well people who work hard in this city,
pequeños y grandes,
and the business, large business and small business
que, que contribuyen al crecimiento de nuestra ciudad
that contribute to this city, to the best of the city,
y las diferentes culturas en nuestra ciudad.
and also for different culture of this city.
Te damos gracias
We are thankful too
por todas las instituciones sociales y religiosas
for all the institutions, all social groups and religion groups
que contribuyen para el bien común de los ciudadanos de nuestra ciudad.
that contribute to the city for the best for the citizens.
Te damos gracias infinitamente
We are infinity thankful
por nuestra bella y próspera ciudad.
for the beauty and prosperous city.
Ayúdanos a mantenerla libre de peligro
Please help us to help the Tasha Sarda and the council to maintain a way for the violence,
y que contribuyan al crecimiento de nuestra ciudad.
and also to maintain a way for the citizens. Please help us to help the Tasha Sarda and the council to maintain a way for the violence, to maintain a way for the citizens.
contaminación y odio.
Also avoid contamination and the hate.
Por último, te damos gracias
For last of all, we are thankful
por tu infinita bondad
for your infinity kindness,
y misericordia
mercy,
y te pedimos que tú bendigas nuestra gran ciudad
and we ask to bless our city
y que guíes esta reunión del concilio de nuestra ciudad.
and also to guide this meeting of the council.
En tu nombre te damos gracias.
And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Amén. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, tonight's Pledge of Allegiance was led by two students from Amstoy Elementary School. Please come back to the front here. Edelyn Apia. Both of you can come back. Nathaniel, you can come as well. Edelyn Apia is a fifth grade student at Amstoy Elementary School, and she is also the student council president. Can you tell us who came with you here tonight? And you can just hit the button to turn it back on.
Tonight, my dad came with me, and my sisters are at home right now.
Okay, well, thank you, Dad, for bringing her out tonight. Give him a hand, everyone. And is there anything you'd like to say?
I'd like to say thank you for inviting me here, and it means a lot to me, and I hope next time I'm able to come back.
Okay, thank you. Also tonight, we were led by the Pledge of Allegiance by Nathaniel Ibarra, a fourth grade student, also at Amstoy Elementary. And Nathaniel is the student council vice president. Nathaniel, can you tell us who came with you tonight?
My mom and my siblings.
I'm sorry, your mom?
Yeah.
Okay, and she is right here? Okay, everyone, please give her a hand. And Nathaniel, is there anything you'd like to say?
Well, thank you for thank you for inviting me, and I hope I come here next year
Okay, I hope so too.
or sit in one of those chairs.
Oh, okay. And well, I hope you do come back, and I, look forward to you being able to sit in this chair, and maybe one day in the future you might be the next mayor too. So, hopefully. So also, I'd like to just recognize the principal here from Amstoy Elementary, Mr. Hugh Ryan, the principal. I believe you're here in the audience. Thank you as well for being here today. And again, thank you to both the students who led us in the Pledge of Allegiance. You guys did a great job, and thank you guys for bringing them out as well. You can have your seat now. Also tonight, our invocation was led by the Reverend Francisco Herrera, who is the pastor at Iglesia Shalom Adonai Church, that's on Marine Avenue. Reverend Herrera was born in Tela Adelaneda, Honduras, in Central America, and his theological studies were accomplished primarily in Honduras, El Salvador, Costa Rica, and Guatemala, with his most recent degree completed here in the United States at the Theological University of Guatemala, Los Angeles. Pastor Herrera has been serving the Iglesia Shalom Adonai in Gardena, California, since January 2003. Prior to coming to Gardena, he pastored several churches in Honduras, an Ark of Salvation congregation in Los Angeles, and a sister Iglesia Shalom Adonai Church in Claremont, California. Pastor Herrera, please come to the front. You can raise that up and turn the microphone on as well. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Yes, he translates for me because my English is not perfect. Agradecemos a Dios por todo este tiempo que hemos estado sirviéndole a Él.
We say thanks to God that we all serve for this city and serving Him too.
Y agradecemos a Dios por vivir en esta comunidad tan preciosa.
We say thanks you for living in this community, beautiful community.
Y creemos que estamos contribuyendo para el beneficio de nuestra comunidad y esperamos que logremos muchas cosas buenas para ella.
And we think we are contributing a lot for this city, for the best of the city.
Y agradecemos mucho por el concilio de esta ciudad, por la alcaldesa, por invitarnos a esta reunión.
And we are thankful for this council and for Major Tasha Sarda for inviting us, and we are glad to be here.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, we have a presentation. Our presentation tonight will be to a certificate of commendation to Police Lieutenant Russ Temple in a special recognition of his 29 years and 6 months. Russ, can you please come to the front? And as you're coming, I'm just going to read the certificate here. This certificate of commendation here is being presented to Russell Temple, and this is an official acknowledgement with deep appreciation for your 29 years and 6 months of outstanding service to the city of Gardena as a police lieutenant with the police department. So myself and the city council here in the city of Gardena, we are just pleased to present this certificate of recognition for your longtime service to the city of Gardena. You have the mic.
Well, I guess I'll keep it short and sweet, and those of you that know me probably don't believe me when I said that, but it's funny, when you get hired, you start here. Here's the rookie, right? You get a picture with the council. You leave, and we get my picture with the council. But to say that, you know, this is a calling, it's not work. I believe in service. As a young cop, you provide a service to the community. You do your whole career, but as you become a leader in any organization, service-oriented leadership, you serve the people that you work under you. And it wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Gardena. I will forever and always bleed green. I love this town, and it's been an absolute, it's been an adventure, but it is time to have another one. So, I just want to thank this council and all the councils from before. And guy on the left there, when I was a rookie, sat in briefing. And Rodney, it's been fun. Now I'm the old man. Yeah. Anyway, I have nothing else. Just thank you. It's been humbling. It's been an honor. And to all my compatriots back there, I love you. I'll miss you, you know. But I look forward to just staying home, and I'll always love and respect all of you. And to the citizens here, it's been a pleasure serving. But now I'm going to sit home and send emails to my city council. Anyway, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Russ, hold on. We're going to take a picture with you. Cindy, why don't you come on up too, to come take a picture with us as well?
Madam Mayor, while we're getting everybody together, I just want to say, Russ, thank you for your service. It was a great ride with you. You were kind of one of my burrs, but you know what? You turned out to be a great guy. All these guys in this room, all these guys in the room are my guys, and you're one of them. So thank you very much. I'll treasure you. Cindy, you can have him back now. Thanks for letting us have him.
Okay, next up, we have a proclamation for the Cinco de Mayo Celebration Day on April the 29th. And tonight, accepting this will be Mayor Pro Tem, or will it be? Susanna Medina, will you please come forward? We have a proclamation here for you. And I believe, is your queen here or the court? Please bring them forward. And as they're coming forward, I just want to mention that this is the 31st annual Cinco de Mayo celebration that we will be having this coming Saturday at 10 o'clock, and I believe it's the parade that will be starting at Gardena Market, right on Gardena Boulevard, and will end at Masfukai Park. So, Susanna, you have the mic.
Thank you. Honorable Mayor and City Council members, my name is Susanna Medina. My address is on file. I am the chairman for our 31st annual Cinco de Mayo Scholarship and Festival Committee of Gardena. I would like to thank you on behalf of this committee for this proclamation. This year's celebrity is going to be Alejandro Luna, sports broadcaster and producer for the Fox News, Univision, and ESP and HBO sportscaster. He's the play-by-play on World Soccer Parade. The parade will be on April 29th, this Saturday, and will start at 10 a.m. and will go west along Gardena Boulevard to Normandy, north to Masfukai, where the festival will start this year. We will feature Univision's winner of the Latin version of The Voice, Diana Garcia, who was dubbed by Univision as the La Reina de la Canción, the Queen of Song. And we will feature also Juan de la Torre, which he's been a long time supporter of Cinco de Mayo. We would also like to invite the City Council to attend, and here are the flyers. And which I provided for you. This is one of the oldest Cinco de Mayo parade, and yes, I'm nervous, in the South Bay, celebrating our 31st anniversary. I would like to introduce our 2017-2018 Queen, Lucia Ordonez from San Pedro Military Academy, and our committee members, which are Adelita Rodriguez, Norma Rodriguez, Queen of 2013, Jeanette Rodriguez, Queen of 2016, and also I'd like to also thank Terry Perez, which is not present, Jasmine from Yayas, who also did the decoration for our Cinco de Mayo coronation. So please come out. I'd like to suggest to the people out there to come out on Saturday, the 29th, and join us for the festival, for food, entertainment, and have fun. Thank you.
Thank you. And at the request of Mayor Pro Tem, I think we're going to take a quick picture and then move on. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
For those of you who don't know this, our mayor was a former contestant at the Cinco de Mayo Beauty Contest as well. So let's give our mayor a round of applause.
Okay, next up, proclamation for Municipal Clerks Week, which will be celebrated May 7th through May 13th. And Becky, I believe you have the proclamation?
On behalf of Mina Semenza and City Clerk's Office, I'd like to thank you, Mayor Serta, and Council for this proclamation. There will be a City Clerk's Week reception on Wednesday, May 10th from 2 to 4, and we'd like to invite everyone to come. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have also just to be proclaimed, April is DMV Donate Life California Month. And just a quick fact here, National Donate Life Month is celebrated each April to bring awareness to the 118,000 individuals nationwide and the more than 21,000 individuals in California who are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list. So April is DMV Donate Life California Month. And for those of you who are interested in participating in some fundraising involved with that, the Southern California Donate Life Run Walk 2017 will be held this April 29th at Cal State University of Fullerton. And if you'd like more information, you can go on the website for DMV Donate Life California Month. And next, moving on to appointments. Does any council member have any appointments to any commissions, committees, or boards tonight?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I do.
Go ahead.
Planning and Environmental Quality Commission, I'm appointing Stephen Langley.
Okay.
And for Gardena Economic Committee, Victor Amenta.
Okay, any more?
And Gardena Rent Mediation Board at Large, Mary Santa Maria.
Okay. Any other council members have any other appointments as well? If not, can I get a motion for those who were recommended tonight?
So moved.
Second.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Medina and seconded by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Medina,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Now, tonight, we would need to swear in the planning commissioner. So for Stephen Langley, can you please come forward so we can swear you in?
Would you please raise your right hand? This is an oath of affirmation of allegiance. The execution of this oath is required by Article 20, Section 3 of the Constitution of the State of California. Repeat after me.
Yes.
I, Stephen P. Langley,
I, Stephen P. Langley,
do solemnly affirm that I will
I do solemnly affirm that I will
support and defend the Constitution of the United States
support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear truth, faith, and allegiance
bear truth, faith, and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California.
that I take this obligation freely
I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion.
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
I will
will.
faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
the duties upon which I am about to enter.
Subscribed and sworn,
subscribed and
before
sworn.
this day, 25th day of April.
Okay.
Congratulations.
Thank you very
If I
much.
can have you sign this.
Sure.
Congratulations, Mr. Langley. Would you like to say anything? You don't have to, it's, if you'd like to, okay. Okay. All right, thank you. Next up tonight is the consent calendar. Does any member of the council, would you like to, I'm sorry, is there any item any member of the council would like to exclude tonight? If not, then can I get a motion to approve the consent calendar as it is?
So moved.
I'm sorry, where did that come from?
He was first.
And who was second? Okay. Madam City Clerk, motion was made by Councilmember Cascanian and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Medina. Will you call for the roll?
Councilmember Cascanian,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Medina,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is Planning and Environmental Quality Commission action sheet. Is there any item on here tonight that any member would like to call for review? If not, I believe we'll receive and file this. And next up is oral communications. Tonight, we have 5 speakers. First speaker is Natal Patel, and after that is Wanda Love. So please come forward. I just want to remind everybody that you do have 3 minutes to speak. When the yellow light comes on, that lets you know that you have 2 minutes. When the red light comes on, that means your time is up. So please be mindful of the time.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak here tonight. My name is Natal Patel. I'm a representative for Senator Stephen Bradford. I just wanted to come here and introduce myself to you guys and congratulate the newly elected officials. As the Gardena community is very special for Senator, as he was a former council member and a longtime resident. So if you guys have any concerns, please feel free to contact our office, let us know what's going on. So, we'd like to improve and build new relationships. So please do share any concerns you have with our office. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Wanda Love.
Good evening, Council. I am just coming back to remind you guys of a few events that the Chamber has going on. We have been kind of busy. I hope to see you all at the meet and greet on May 4th. We have gotten a great response from the community, both business and residents. They're really looking forward to meeting the new elected officials. We also, the Chamber is partnering with Sam's Club to host a Memorial Day luncheon for our veterans on Memorial Day. No, I'm sorry, it'll be the Friday before Memorial Day so that we can get as many veterans to show up, because if we host it on Memorial Day, they tend to have something else to do. So if you know any veterans that wish to come and have lunch, Sam's Club, Chamber of Commerce, and a few other businesses are sponsoring a luncheon for them at Sam's Club. The Chamber is also hosting a open house on June the 4th. We're doing an open house to educate and inform the community as far as what the Chamber is, what we do, the importance of a Chamber, and how we work with the business community and the residents. We're also hosting our 4th annual Outstanding Women's Award Luncheon, where we recognize women in and around the community for doing outstanding work above and beyond what they get paid to do in their day job. This can be any woman that volunteers in the community, in the church, in the preschools, whatever. The nominee does not have to live in the city of Gardena. We've been doing this for 4 years now. We recognize between 15 to 25 women at this award luncheon. Last year, we recognized one of the police department staff members at this event, so we hope to see you guys there. We are also partnering with the Martin Luther King Cultural Committee to host their Hatitude All-White Tea Party, which is June 10th. That'll be held here at the Nakaoka Center at 2 o'clock. And we're also partnering, well, the Gardena Chamber of Commerce is a part of the SBACC, which is the South Bay Association of Chamber of Commerce's. We are doing a military discount when all 16 cities have come together to offer a 10% or more discount to anyone that has served in the military or is actively involved in the military. We are looking for businesses that want to offer a 10% discount. They can find the forum online at gardenachamber.org to get more information about any of these events that I have mentioned. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Dale Hardwood, and after that, Cheryl Sherman.
Good evening, Council. My name's Dale Harwood. It's Harwood. There's no D in there. I've rented an apartment and lived here over 30 years. And what happened at 10 o'clock this morning, I went out to close the lid on the trash can that is serviced by, I believe it's called Waste Resources. And there was a rod sticking out of it that holds the lid 16 inches out that I hit with my eye. I'm due for cataract surgery, so I can't see that light that well, so you may have to tell me if it turns color. Anyway, I called the company and to make a complaint to have them come out and repair or replace that trash bin. They told me that I couldn't do it. And because I don't own it, I'm just a tenant. It had to be done by the owners of the property to make that complaint. And I find that very unreasonable. Now, normally that wouldn't be something maybe concern the city, except that you guys give them a monopoly on the trash pickup in this town. And therefore, I think there should be nothing wrong when a person, whether they're an owner or a tenant, comes in and sees a defective piece of machinery, which was also a safety hazard because it's in the alley, to call that company up, in this case Waste Resources, and tell them that, hey, this needs to be taken care of, and that they should turn around and have to come out and take care of it. I shouldn't have to go up and down and complain. And that is my basic complaint, and a little short. But now at dang near, it hit me right up here. I've got a little damage up here. I'm scheduled for cataract surgery next week, so I don't know. It came close, in other words. But I think it's impervious that that since you guys give them a monopoly, that they should have to respond to a resident, whether they're a tenant or an owner, if there's a defective piece of property and a safety hazard, that they have to fix it, and they should accept complaints. They told me I couldn't file a complaint of any kind. I had to go through the owners of the property. And that's just about basically it. Thank you very much.
Okay, sir. Our city manager will be following up with you later after the meeting. Next up is Cheryl Sherman.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Cheryl Sherman, Vice President of Friends of Gardena Willows Wetland Preserve. And I would like to have everyone get ready to mark their calendar for Mother's Day, which is coming up next month on May the 14th, because we are going to be having some California native plants available for purchase at the preserve when you come for your second Sunday stroll on Mother's Day. So that's from 1 to 4. It's a wonderful opportunity to come relax, enjoy the preserve if you haven't been there. The flowers are beautiful. I'm hoping that they're going to last another couple months because they're breathtaking. And I also would like to, at this time, remind everyone that for May, our restoration workday will be on May the 20th from 8 to 11, and we're really needing lots of help. The wonderful rain was really good in providing us lots of water, and it also was excellent in providing us lots of weeds, the kind that we don't want, the invasive type. So we're needing lots of extra hands. So if you can donate an hour or so to help us out on Saturday, May the 20th, we'd really appreciate it. And I'll tell you what, you'll feel good for it because it's a wonderful environment. Once you're inside the preserve, you feel like you're in the mountains when you're still right here within the city of Gardena. It's a real treasure to have this wonderful preserve right here in our own city. And I'd like to remind everyone that I also have other additional information that you can pick up at the conclusion of the meeting in the display in the back of the room, and it's also available for those at home to pick up at the City Hall lobby, in the City Hall lobby, or at the Mamie Deer Library, or at the Nakaoka Center. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker is Jessie Carrera. But before Ms. Carrera comes forward, did you want to speak on the hearing item or during oral communications? Okay, we'll hold that until then. Okay, next up is item number 8A1, Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, presented for adoption tonight is Resolution Number 6268, which repeals Resolution 6179, adopting a new conflict of interest code. This is presented for adoption pursuant to California Political Reform Act, Government Code, Section 87306.5, requiring all public agencies to review their conflict of interest code to ensure they are up to date and meet current legal requirements. The appendix attached to Resolution Number 6268 calls out those positions and the designations that they're required to file with the city clerk for the Political Reform Act.
Okay, does any member of the council have any questions or comments in regards to this? If not, can I get a motion to approve this as is?
So moved.
Okay, I'm sorry, it was a motion made by Councilmember Henderson and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Medina. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Medina,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Item number 8B1, Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, presented for adoption is Resolution Number 6257, which approves the engineer's report for the Gardena Consolidated Street Lighting and Assessment District for fiscal year 2018, declaring its intention to levy and collect assessments under the Gardena Consolidated Street Lighting District for fiscal year 2017-18, and setting the time and place for hearing protests in relationship to thereof. The public hearing be set for May 23rd, 2017. On July 28th, 2009, the City Council approved and confirmed an increase in the assessment of the Gardena Consolidated Street Lighting District through a Proposition 218 proceeding. As described in the engineer's report, staff recommends that the council adopt Resolution Number 6257 and approve the engineer's report. That 218 process provided for an increase in the assessment each year by the cost of the Consumer Price Index. The increase for the current year is 2.1%. For residential properties, the assessment is 79.6 cents per linear foot, and for commercial properties, $1.76 per linear foot. The budgeted amount, $697,302. used to pay energy costs and upgrades in the street lighting program throughout the city.
Okay, thank you. Before we take this up to vote, this is a question, I guess, for the city attorney. Are we taking up resolution 6257 and 58 together to vote, or are they going to be voted on separately? Separately. Oh, okay. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments? If not, can I get a motion to approve this?
So moved.
And is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Councilmember Kaskanian and seconded by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll?
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Medina,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Item number 8B2, Mr. City Manager.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, Resolution number 6258 approves the engineer's report for the Gardena Artesia Boulevard Landscaping Assessment District for fiscal year 2017-2018, declaring its intention to levy and collect assessments under the Artesia Boulevard Landscaping Assessment District, setting a time and place for the hearing protest for May 23rd, 2017. The Artesia Boulevard Landscaping Assessment District between Normandy Avenue and Dalton Avenue was established and commenced in fiscal year 1994-95. The Artesia Boulevard Landscaping Assessment District between Denker Avenue and Western Avenue was established and commenced in fiscal year 2001-2. The assessment will pay for servicing and maintenance costs of landscaping and improvements within the median islands on Artesia Boulevard between Western Avenue and Normandy. The amount budget is $21,662. There is no increase from last year.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the council have any questions or comments? Mayor Pro Tem Medina?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this, we're basically voting on whether we're going to have a public hearing or not, correct? In essence?
No, you're voting to set the public hearing for the 23rd to hear protests from those businesses that will be assessed to maintain those medians.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? If not, can I get a motion to approve this item?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Medina and seconded by Councilmember Henderson. Will you call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Medina,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Item number 8B3, Mr. City Manager.
Mr. City Manager, item number.
Yes, Councilman Kaskanian, he's going to be recused and go to the back room. He was a member of the Planning Commission and also lives within 300 feet of the project area. Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, this is a public hearing, adoption of general plan amendment, specific plan and zone change, and call for a review of Planning Commission action approving site plan review number 6-16 and tentative trap map 1-16, all relating to a 46-unit townhome community located at 16958 Southwestern Avenue, and adoption of a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program for all actions. This is a request to construct a new townhome development on a 2.31 acre property currently zoned general commercial. June 30th, 2016, the applicant, City Ventures LLC, submitted an application for the subject property. 20-day public review period for the proposed mitigated negative declaration commenced in December of 2016 and ended January. The project was duly noticed in the GVN for Planning Commission hearing. The applicant requested 2 continuances at both meetings. Planning Commission made motions to open the hearing and continue the the public hearing. At the May 21st, 2017 Planning Commission meeting, the commission made a motion to adopt the following resolution number PC 2-17, which says the following: recommends adoption of a mitigated negative declaration, mitigation monitoring program for general plan amendment GPA 1-16, specific plan 1-16, zone change 1-16. Adopts a mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program for tentative track 1-16 and site plan review 6-16, all relating to the property located at 16958 Western Avenue. Resolution number 3-17 recommends adoption of general plan amendment GPA 1-16, specific plan 1-16, zone change 1-16, and approves a tentative track 1-16 and site plan review 6-16, all relating to the property at 16958 Western Avenue. On March 30th, Mayor Serta submitted a call for review of the entire project. Will provide an opportunity for the City Council to review all the entitlements. The hearing was scheduled and is noticed for tonight. General plan amendment changing the land use designation of property from general commercial to specific plan 1-16, approving the Western Avenue specific plan, zone change 1-16, changing the zoning of the property from general commercial to Western Avenue specific plan, and tentative track map dividing the property for 46 condominiums, and the site plan review allowing the development of the 46 townhomes. Approval of these items are discretionary, requires the adoption of the mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program. Project is a 2.31 acres lot located on the east side of Western Avenue. Site is currently used for recreational vehicle, boats, and RV storage. Site has no current landscaping and only one structure, a kiosk, on the property of the project. Site topography is relatively flat, and the dimensions of the subject property are approximately 160 feet wide by 609 feet deep. It's the location, if you're not familiar with the site, location on the east side of Western at the 16900 block. The zoning map shows the adjoining properties. The 16958 is the site we're talking about tonight. The red represents general commercial. The dark brown would be the multifamily. The residential developments to the east of the property and to the north of the property. The applicant proposes to demolish all the existing structure, construct 6 buildings containing 46 three-story attached townhomes with 2 floor plans ranging from 1,538 square feet to 1,922 square feet. This results in a density of approximately 20 units per acre. In addition, the applicant proposes 115 parking spaces, 92 parking spaces in garages, and 23 guest parking spaces. A total of 8,291 square feet of private open space via ground level patios and or second level decks, 6,900 square feet minimum. A total of 21,350 square feet of common open space via walkways, courtyards, adult and child recreation areas, and dog play area. 19,309 square feet was the minimum landscaping throughout the development. This represents the site plans showing the 6 buildings, the drive aisle, and entry and exit. Next slide shows the landscaping, the dedicated landscaping area, first floor as well as second floor in the plan. Next, depicting the front elevation of both Plan 2-1, Plan 2 and 1 for the proposed buildings. and a rear elevation plan. As I previously indicated, I'm currently on that property. I don't think there is any landscaping, at least I certainly don't recall any driving by there. But all the asphalt, this is the proposed landscaping plan, which exceeds the required amount of landscaping for a project of this size. Some of the typical plants that are provided throughout that landscaping plan proposed by the applicant. The current general plan designation is general commercial zoning C3. The proposal is for a specific plan. The proposed zoning designation, Western Avenue specific plan. Current use is a legal non-conforming use, RV storage, 160 feet wide by 609 feet deep. This is not conducive to commercial development. It's 4 times as deep as it is wide. The existing residential to the north and in east with R2 zoning at 17 units per acre. Per the GMC, a minimum of 20 units per acre is required for specific plans as adopted in March of 2012. Project would be consistent with the general plan. Land use goal 1, preserve and protect existing single-family and low-medium density residential neighborhoods while promoting the development of additional high-quality housing types. If approved, the project would be consistent with the surrounding densities and housing types. Land use policy 1.4 states the city should locate new, medium, and high-density residential developments near neighborhood and community shopping centers with high levels of community services. Project is located 623 feet north of the Albertson Shopping Center. The zone change and general plan amendment sets the stage for the transition of an underutilized parcel of land to quality housing that will help the city reach its regional housing goals, as well as provide much-needed revenue from fees, property taxes, and user tax. The applicant is requesting approval of Western Avenue specific plans. Specific plans are authorized by the state law and implemented in accordance with Gardena zoning code. General plan use, land use policy, consider locating new, medium, and high-density residential developments near shopping centers with commensurate high levels of community services and facilities. This higher density is appropriate along Western Avenue because the residential development is located within walking distance to the shopping center. GMC Section 18.3901B states that regulations and development standards established for a specific plan shall comply with the spirit and intent of the Gardena zoning code, general plan, and other applicable laws. This chart compares the development standards with the R3 standards. The Western Avenue specific plan in each of the areas exceeds the lower in building height, but exceeds the others in each of the other categories. Continuing with those standards, you see the standards relative to the setbacks and off-street parking requirements, which I know has been an issue at the Planning Commission. Currently meets the code requirements with 2 spaces in a garage, enclosed parking facility, and 1/2 unit for guest parking per developed unit. The open space requirements, they're under the R3 zone, they would be required 27,600. They're providing 29,641, exceeding the private space and also exceeding the common space requirements. For GMC 18.39.030C, the Planning Commission was required to make the following findings prior to recommending approval of the specific plan to the City Council. Specific plan meets state requirements as specified in Section 65450 of the California Government Code. Specific plan contains all the necessary information as specified in GMC 1839.040, and the use of the specific plan for the project provides a better quality of development than otherwise available through conventional. These findings can be made and can be approved. The development as a whole will conform to all the applicable development standards of the proposed Western Avenue specific plan, be consistent with the goals of the municipal code and general plan. It will not adversely affect the orderly and harmonious development of the area or impact the general welfare of the city. The State Subdivision Map Act includes a list of grounds for denial, and if any one of these findings is made, the map must be denied. The map and design improvement is not consistent with the applicable general and specific plan. Site's not physically suitable for the type of density of the development. The design or subdivision of the proposed improvement are likely to cause serious public health problems or injure fish or wildlife. The design of the subdivision of the type will conflict with public access. The design does not provide for, to the extent feasible, future passive or natural heating and cooling opportunities. These findings were not made, so therefore the map can be approved. The developer will be required to pay in lieu park fees in accordance with Chapter 17.20. Total parkland required for the project is .389 gross acres of land. The applicant is providing .283. To receive credit, the CCNRs will adequately provide for private ownership, maintenance, and the use restricted for recreational purposes to be recorded and runs with the land. The applicant is required to pay an in lieu fee of for .106 acres of parkland. Those in lieu fees translate to $255,108.70. With the conditions of approval and approval of the associated entitlements of the project, and project will be consistent with the general plan, Western Avenue specific plan, State Subdivision Map Act as supplemented by Title 17 of the Municipal Code. One of the questions raised and part of the call for review was the GIS parking locations. Here outlined in red, the 23 additional GIS parking spaces that was required by code, 1/2 space for each of the 46 units. Residents did voice concerns that the applicant initiated meetings relative to existing traffic, parking, speeding in the neighborhood. In response to those concerns, the city enlisted Linscott, Law, and Greenspan to conduct a traffic analysis in the neighborhood. This analysis conducted on the street was the analysis concluded the streets analyzed were not impacted. City staff understands the residents' concerns are valid and looking at traffic calming discussed with the residents, including but not limited to erecting signs restricting traffic in the community from Artesian and Western and 169th Place during peak hours, parking districts, or permanently closing 169th Place. This study was not done in conjunction with this project, was done by the city, not related specifically to the project, but to the concerns that were expressed by the neighbor. Keaton Kreitzer Consulting prepared an environmental initial study and mitigated negative declaration and mitigation monitoring program under contract to the city. The notice of intent to adopt was posted in the Guardian Valley News. The review period conducted December to January as previously indicated. At the time the report was written, 3 written comments were received. Southern California Air Quality Management District, the Gabrielino Band of Mission Indians, and the County Sanitation District. Comment letters and the city's response to each was prepared and filed with those entities. This is a list of the environmental factors that were analyzed to determine if impacts would be resulted by the implementation of the project. You'll see that there are several cultural resources, noise, geology, soils, mandatory findings of significance. The four marked environmental factors listed checked were considered to be potentially affected by this project involving at least one impact that is less than significant with mitigation incorporated. The determination of no effect was issued by State of California Department of Fish and Game for the project. Staff's recommending the City Council open the public hearing, receive testimony from the public, and adopt resolutions number 6255, 6256, 6266, and introduce ordinance number 1777. Representatives from the applicant are present, along with the city's environmental consultant, as well as the traffic consultant who did the analysis for the project.
Okay, so this is a public hearing. The hearing is now open. And I think we'll bring up first the comments here first from various individuals who'd like to speak. The first one is Martha Nagawa. And then after that will be a Ginger Tanatucci.
Honorable Mayor, City Councilman, my name is Martha Nakagawa. I am respectfully asking that you not adopt resolution number 6255, 6256, 6266, and not introduce ordinance number 1777. I found the traffic report flawed, especially on the number of traffic cars going eastbound on 169 during peak hours. The report of the cars going westbound, there were about 90-some cars going westbound during peak hours, which is reasonable. But the cars going eastbound were like between 5 and 9 cars during peak hours, and I know that just walking my dog during that time, I can count more than 5 cars going eastbound. So I respectfully ask that another report be done on traffic for a longer period of time. Additionally, Artesia and Western is very congested already. I've had to change my driving habits. I avoid that intersection during peak hours. This 46 unit is going to increase density and traffic, and human nature will say that these potential new residents will avoid going towards Artesia and Western during those hours of peak hours. They will probably cut through our residential area, and that's a concern for our quality of life. And so I know I was also reading the housing reports, and I noticed that there's a density bonus given out. But I work in the west side, West Los Angeles area, and it takes me maybe sometimes 30 minutes to drive 1 mile. And I would hate to see Gardena become like the West Los Angeles area. So I respectfully ask that these resolutions not be adopted and that this ordinance 1777 not be introduced. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Ginger Tanatucci.
Good evening. My name is Ginger Taniguchi. I live at the 1700 block of Harvard Boulevard. My property is adjacent to the developmental site on the southeast end. and I share approximately 66 feet of wall on the east end of the site. I have three major concerns. One is safety, one is privacy, and property values. My first concern is safety, and the area adjacent to me will be public access. It's stated the developers are offering a 8-foot brick wall, which is right now 8 foot high. And my concern is at this height, the wall can be scaled. For example, I've come home to find a man running through my yard and jumping over this 8-foot wall. And additionally, I have my friends, my children's friends scaling this wall. Number two, my second concern is privacy. I have 2 young daughters in the house. Both of their bedrooms and our bathroom is facing the developmental property. My concern is that the windows of the adjacent home and possibly persons in the public access will be able to see into my backyard. In the past, I've been brutally assaulted. So as you can imagine, safety and privacy are my most imperative concerns for my daughters. My third concern is the property value. Would the value of my home be diminished because of the lack of safety and lack of privacy? With the developer's view of my backyard and window view into my children's bedroom and the house? In conclusion, I understand that developments and progress are going to occur throughout the city. I am asking, though, that you address the needs and concerns of the people who live in the city, our safety, our privacy, and our property values. In trying to address my concerns with the developers, in discussion between Mr. Berrigan and the developers, I propose possibly higher than an 8-foot brick wall, an iron fence, possibly a little bit on top, or a 3-foot glass added to the 8-foot wall. But the developers' concerns were the higher the wall, the more boxed-in feeling. An iron fence added would imply a bad neighborhood, and a glass top is not needed because it is not a sound issue. However, a 8-foot wall with 3 feet glass top equals some additional safety and privacy, plus beauty and aesthetics, because you can see through it with the sun and the shade, which is one of their major concerns. But most importantly, it's harder to scale an 8-foot wall if there's something on top of there. Thank you very much. Have a blessed night.
Thank you. Thank you. Next up is Jesse Carrera.
My name is Jessie Carrara. I live at 16930 169th Place. So my major concern about this project is traffic, parking problems, and the possibility, and I'm almost sure that if we change the zoning from commercial to residential for this project, there will be more to come in the future. It's kind of like written on a wall for me, because in Mitch's presentation, he was talking about how the city is landlocked, so the only way to increase home property in this residential property in the city is to do this, right? To build townhomes. We have them all on Western right now. And as he was speaking, I was thinking, those townhomes on Western are 3 stories high. That's really high, and that's going to be right there on Western. But, aesthetically, I guess it looks nice, but I'm just thinking, I'm not so crazy about it. But let me just tell you about the problems with the traffic. 169th Place, between 169th Place and Western, there is no place to put another traffic signal. This property is going to be, is maybe like 100 feet from 169th Place. So when the people come out of their entrance and exit, there's only one entrance and exit. Okay, it's going to be on Western. The natural tendency for these people to come out of their property is to make a right-hand turn on 169th Place and zigzag through our neighborhood, 169th Place, Denker, and 170th, and then Dalton to get to Artesia to catch the 91, the 405 going south or the 110 freeway, because you cannot make a left-hand turn on Western during peak hours, morning, and it's actually during the day, because Western is a pretty busy street. So that means that we are going to have more traffic going down our street every day, all day, okay? So that's our concern. We also have a parking problem on our street. And I think they have a parking problem on Dalton because there's not enough parking for the restaurants and the property on Artesia. So they go across the street and park in that neighborhood, okay? They park on Dalton, which is going to be across the street from Rascals and all those restaurants. So they have a problem with parking. So we are very concerned about that traffic and parking. And if this passes, and we have future projects in the future down the road, it's going to increase more traffic into our neighborhood. So I want to ask you guys, I want to ask the city council members to please consider, and also the planning commission, to please consider our situation as residents in this neighborhood, because we're going to be affected no matter what you build on Western. So I'm just making a plea to you to please consider us. We're the ones that live there. We're the ones that have to live with the aftermath of these projects. And I know that you have your needs, to build more housing, but we have our safety concerns and quality of life concerns. So that's all I have to say. Please consider the residents. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the council have any questions? Mayor Pro Tem Medina?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. City Manager, there's one thing that no one's touched on, and that's it's an issue that we had way back in the 139th Street condos. I went through this 3 times, and I can't find the fire marshal's approval or certificate, which usually has to deal with the ingress and the outgress like they were mentioning earlier with regards to traffic. Is that something that we need to be concerned with?
The plan has been reviewed and approved by the fire department.
But there was no certificate in the plaque.
Doesn't have to be a stamp at this point. Before it's built, it has to be a stamp, but it has been reviewed.
And it's been approved?
Yes, it has. The egress and entrance and exiting has been approved by the fire department, as well as the location of the fire hydrants on the property.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other, Councilmember Medina? Henderson?
Thank you. Well, I had a few questions. Now I got a bunch, but I'll condense them. In regards to our traffic study, how long was the traffic study conducted? Just curious.
There's a little bit of confusion here. There was a traffic study done by the city as it relates to the issues raised by the community relative to the already existing problems they had in their community with traffic. And that study was commissioned by the city. And I'm going to have the chief speak to that in a moment. The study that was done as part of this project dealt with just the addition of this project as it compares to existing use. Two different issues.
So, and then my next question is, I know we came up with a bunch of possible solutions in regards to parking districts, closing the street. Do we select one, or are we still going to consider one or the other alternatives, or we're going to talk with the community about that?
The results of that study and the issues regarding traffic calming currently being reviewed between the police department and the general services department. For a recommendation, then there'll be more meetings with the community before any implementation or recommendation.
Next question, last question. Let's say if this does get approved and we get new neighbors, 46 units, will we then, because that's going to be, let's say, a Western specific plan, will they start complaining about the actual commercial businesses that are there making noise, kind of like what we deal with the other commercial business? And we say, well, you knew there was a commercial business right there when you bought it, and now will we have to deal with that issue moving forward?
Not any different from people moving in next to a school. It's pre-existing.
All right.
Are there any other questions?
Just real quickly. I have a lot of friends that live in District 3 over there, and I know that there are a lot of people that take shortcuts through there. And it's a necessity to avoid traffic. So I guess my question is there any way that we can have a study done that combines both the project and what happens now to see how that's actually going to impact that area? Because I know during the holidays, UPS people that are like seasonal park down there on 169th in the side streets. There is additional traffic during the holidays. The project is great. I love the project, but again, the major issue seems to be the traffic and parking issues. So that, I guess that'll just be my question, because I know that is kind of a shortcut.
And that's kind of what was found in the study that was already done, so there's not really a lot of difference relative to the issue of the project itself and what it generates compared to what's already there. I think that the issue now before the General Service and the Police Department are to take that information, come up with some ideas, meet with the community and look at it. The traffic in that neighborhood has been an issue since the Gardena Village and the back entrance of Ed Miller's project there off of Artesia. You know, so that has not changed. It's probably increased because of those units. And yet the traffic studies, I'm not going to speak for the traffic consultant, but what I read in what was presented to commission relative to this project is the amount of traffic generated by this project and the possible cut through would be a lot less than if it were to become a commercial site.
Okay, I just have two questions. What's going to be the selling price of some of the units there?
I wish I knew, but the applicant can probably handle that one.
Is the applicant present tonight?
Yes, the applicant and the two consultants are present.
If they could come forward and just give us some information on that. And while they're coming forward, I do have another question. So right now, there are RVs that are parked there. Usually when they pull out, they're making a right-hand turn, and I'm assuming they're either going down Western or cutting through 169th as well?
The vehicles that are there can make a left or a right out of that current driveway. In 30 years, I've seen that gate only open once.
Okay.
Twice? Okay.
So it's legally okay to make a left-hand turn out of there currently now?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Ma'am, if you could tell us the price.
Yeah, good evening. I'm Kim Pridgetel, Vice President of Development for City Ventures, and currently we're projecting the sales prices to be in the low to mid 500,000s.
Okay, low to mid 500. Okay, and I'm sorry, were there?
I had a question for her as well.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Medina?
Yeah, if it should come up, and say the residents in the community should ask for a street light put up there, would you be willing to pay for that? So this way people can exit the area and make a left or a right, as opposed
Signal.
to.
I think that's.
Yeah,
that's,
traffic signal, yeah.
That's something that the traffic department may have an issue with. I think it's something that was probably discussed and looked into in the study, but I know it has to do with proximity to other traffic signals, et cetera. It's something that we could consider. It's not something that's been brought up to us to this point, and I don't know that it's feasible, but it's something we can, look into if that's.
Because there is a light up further north on 169th, because they're catty corner this way. And the problem that I see with the residents that, especially around Dalton and 169th, is that most people, because we're creatures of habit, are saying, I'm not going to fight the traffic going north. I'll just make a quick right, cut across 169th and go up Dalton. It's an easy process, and needless to say, it's a problem for the neighbors. But the question is, if it were to come up as a suggestion, could you put a light there?
I don't know that this 46-unit development could actually withstand that. I know the traffic generated from the development based on the traffic study definitely wouldn't justify the need for that, and probably would create too much of a hardship on the project, to be honest, but it isn't something that I've looked into, and to give you a for sure answer, I would definitely need to look into that more.
No, it wasn't a for sure hard and concrete question. It was just if it comes up, is that feasible? That's all.
Okay.
Okay, Councilman Henderson?
My question is in regards to the privacy and the 8-foot wall for the homeowners that are right up against that. Is there something we could do to at least maybe give that extra 3 feet of privacy to make it 11-foot? I understand the wrought iron look versus having a higher brick wall, but is there something that could probably go at the top to at least consider some privacy for those homeowners? against
So,
that?
yeah, I've been made aware of the concern for sure from the Planning Commission hearing. And just to kind of give a little bit of background on if you are familiar with City Ventures, we're an infill home builder, developer, and all of our projects are in situations like this. So when we come into a site, we definitely are very sensitive to the adjacent uses. Very often, or almost always, there's a residential use on at least one side of our project. And so immediately in looking at this site, we recognize that we have two sides, kind of 2.5 sides adjacent to residential, actually 2 sides. And so our first thought is what can we do to create as much distance from that existing space, giving as much setback, considering the fact that we're proposing townhomes, and that's what, the specific plan allows for on this site. But also wanting to be sensitive and create as much setback as possible to avoid privacy concerns and just any type of, concern of the neighbors. And so we immediately knew right where the drive aisle would need to be on the south end there, adjacent to that side, and then also just pulled the units as far up on Western as we possibly could in order to give the largest setback we could on that back side too. So it's something that from the very beginning we've been really sensitive about, and in the community meetings, we definitely I let them know that as well, that we are very aware and sensitive to and want to mitigate the concerns as best that we can. With regards to that, and I wasn't aware of that issue until the Planning Commission. We do have about 60 feet there adjacent to the one property. So initially, or our project was initially designed with 6-foot perimeter walls adjacent along the entire perimeter. We'll build those perimeter walls inside of the existing because there are too many improvements on the adjacent properties built right up to those walls. We don't want to damage people's property. So on all of our projects, we'll build right inside of that. We'll fill the gap. There's usually like a 3-inch gap there that we'll fill and cap, and you can't tell it's 2 walls side by side because of the treatment that we do. So in this case, that property is 2 feet lower than ours. So our 8-foot wall is actually a 10-foot drop down to grade in that yard. So initially, it was going to be a 6-foot wall, and in light of the concern that was voiced, we increased, immediately said we can go up to an 8-foot wall, which is typically in most cities what the maximum allowed per code with the variance is. Anything beyond that, our concern obviously is aesthetics to some extent. We have new home buyers in the low to mid 500,000s buying a home, and they're, that wall when they walk out their front door is right, right there. It is a 20-foot setback, but you get too high with that wall and it definitely creates sort of a enclosed effect. I did want to mention that one of those units, the one on the southeast, is a private yard. So there's actually only, when you look at an aerial, you can see there's only really 3 units, which is that 60-foot that are adjacent, but we're going to do an 8-foot wall along the entire stretch there. I don't know of a treatment. The glass treatment is something that real glass is something that I don't even know structurally is something that isn't feasible. The wrought iron spikes is something that I think just sends a message of a really unsafe neighborhood and would be something that we wouldn't want to, we feel like what we're doing here is really improving this property, going from an RV storage lot where honestly I can understand safety concerns with that because there's obviously places that folks could be where you wouldn't necessarily see them at night. I don't know that there's anyone there all night long, so I can definitely understand concerns with that. These 46 homeowners are making a significant investment here. That building is actually, eyes right there. 4 units worth of eyes right there, and a lot of additional security come with, these people investing in this neighborhood and wanting to, enjoy it like the folks that are existing. So I feel like just the change in use here is a huge improvement. The one thing that I did think about is during construction, I can understand there being some concern about, it being a construction site and not necessarily secure. We'll have it fenced, but we would be willing to have a security guard on site 24 hours to make sure that there aren't concerns about that, and that at night when our construction manager and quality managers leave the site, that it's actually secure and there's someone there making sure that no one comes on and is able to, make it over to the adjacent properties. So if I could think of something that wouldn't make it feel, an 8-foot wall is already a really high wall. There will be a cap on the wall, like I mentioned, and obviously a lot of landscaping along that as well. So there will be trees and, things that would preclude access to some extent to the wall. And again, it is another additional 2-foot drop to the other property. I don't know what I can suggest. But the point I was making before with our wall being adjacent is that, the neighbor's wall will still be in place, and they could certainly install something, higher on their property. And, there isn't anything we would be able to do about that. There will be 2 walls there, so there's nothing to say that the other wall couldn't be made, I guess, higher with some type of material.
Thank you.
And then while I was here, I just wanted to answer any other questions. Well, are there any other questions you want me to answer while I'm standing here?
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you. And, okay, so at this time here, I guess we can close the hearing and go ahead and the hearing's closed now at this point. So go ahead and see if any member of the council would like to make a motion to approve and adopt resolution number 6255, 6256, and 6266. Does any member want to adopt this at this time?
Madam Mayor, I got one more question of the city
Go ahead.
manager.
What's your
Or,
question?
excuse me, yeah, Mr. City Manager, in regards to the current facility being an RV storage facility, have we had any complaints in regards to vagrants or just crime or anything in that area?
I'm not aware of any specifically relative to that site.
Okay, thank you.
So at this time, is there anybody on the council would like to make a motion to approve this item? Okay, if not, then I believe this motion then fails. Is that correct? Or this item fails? Mr. City Attorney, can you give me some direction here?
It's a tough one. The Planning Commission has approved the tentative map and the site plan review, and if there's no action taken by the council, then that action by the Planning Commission stands. However, that action by the Planning Commission is contingent upon the site, the change in the general plan and the rezoning. So I guess if there's no action taken, then the project fails.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Henderson.
Mr. City Manager, if we table this until we get the data in regards to what the plan is going to be in regards to parking districts or street closures or something like that, I think that gives us a little bit more data to figure out what we're going to do, because then that does change the behavior of that area with 46 townhomes included, if we're going to do something like that. When will we get that data?
That information is being looked at right now, but I do not have a timetable relative to that.
Well, let me just say this here. In regards to when you start talking about parking districts and things of that sort, that process takes a while. And unfortunately, everywhere you go, if you live here in LA County, traffic has just increased everywhere. Getting from Santa Monica to City Council meeting tonight, 2.5 hours sometimes, dealing with traffic. So whether you're West LA area, downtown area, Orange County, traffic is just growing everywhere. And, of course, nobody wants to see it grow like this, but, change is coming. And overall, the project does look good here. And I think, this is definitely something that we should, look to move forward with here. Looking at that RV storage facility. I mean, that's definitely an eyesore here versus having new units come in, new homeowners come into the area, which are people who would be very much invested in, in the community. I do think if we move forward with this here, if we do see where there's going to be a problem as far as traffic is concerned, that's definitely something that our police department can look at, our traffic department can look at. And as we've done before when there have been situations that have come before us, we've move forward with things like parking districts or look to things like traffic calming devices, potentially, to help redirect traffic. So I think in this particular item here, this is something that we should move forward with because, we need housing, and this here is a good project here. I think they've met the needs as far as, the height of the wall. Making it 8 feet, because it looks like at the end of the day, it's going to be 10 feet here. So I believe that this here is still overall a good project, and we can still address the concerns of traffic. Because as it stands right now, traffic is still going to go down 169th. It's already, traffic going that direction. So this here is still a good project. So I'm going to make a motion to move forward with this. Is there anybody who would like to second at this time?
I'll second.
Okay. Madam City Clerk, I've made a motion to move forward with this. Councilman Tanaka has seconded this. Will you call the roll?
Mayor Serta,
Yes.
Councilman Tanaka, with your approval, the current provision in the conditions of approval is for a 7-foot wall, but I think the applicant indicated 8, so we would just make that a pen and ink change to the recommendation in your, yeah.
Okay, so it's making notation of an 8-foot wall there. Okay. Madam City Clerk, will you call the roll?
Mayor Serta,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Medina,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to, I'm sorry, we also need to
We have
introduce
to
the
introduce
ordinance.
ordinance 1777.
Okay, I'll introduce the ordinance number 1777. And I'd just like, for the people who are here today, know the fact that if you still have questions and concerns about the traffic, we do have our chief of police who's here today. And, as I've seen with other projects throughout the city of Gardena, when traffic's an issue, we're a city that's small enough that we can work with the community here to make decent changes here within our city. So moving on to item number 8B1, Mr. City Manager. I'm sorry, 8B4.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council, presented for adoption is Resolution 6269, which overturns the Planning Environmental Quality Commission decision approving conditional use permit 8-16 to allow the operation of a new massage establishment per section 1846030 of the Gardena Municipal Code located 15112 Southwestern Avenue, Unit A5. On January 17th, 2017, the Planning Environmental Quality made a motion to deny conditional use permit 816, directed staff to draft a resolution. February 21st, Planning Commission adopted resolution denying the conditional use permit. A call for review of the Planning Commission. Approval was filed by Councilmember Serta, citing concerns relative to parking over concentration. On April 11th, Council held a duly noticed public hearing where they directed staff to file a resolution overturning the Planning Commission and approving conditional use permit 8-16. Resolution 6269 does what the council has asked.
Okay, so we just need to officially adopt resolution number 6269. Is there a motion to do so?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, Mayor Pro Tem Medina has made a motion, and Councilman Kaskanian has seconded that. Will you call for the roll? Sorry.
Councilman Kaskanian participated in this at the.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry.
he's really not participating.
Okay.
On 8B?
Item number
You-
8B4.
Yeah,
You
you
handled
recuse
this
yourself
at
at the
Planning
hearing, so you
Commission.
can't participate in this vote.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's okay. And it's just the vote, it's no other action, it's just the vote on the adoption, so.
So we still need
Right
to
now,
go.
we have moved by Medina, we're looking for a second.
Second.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Madam City Clerk, motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem Medina and seconded by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Medina,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Item number 9A1.
Mayor Serta, members of the City Council presented for adoption is Resolution 6267, which designates certain members of the Gardena City Council to serve as representatives on the South Bay City Councils of Government. The bylaws of South Bay City's Council of Governments requires the council to annually adopt a resolution designating our delegate and alternate. At this time, Mayor Pro Tem Medina would continue to serve as a delegate, and Councilmember Tanaka will be approved as the alternate to the governing board of South Bay City's Councils of Government.
Okay. So at this time, are there any questions or comments? If not, can I get a motion to approve adoption resolution number 6267?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Madam City Clerk, there was a motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Medina and seconded by Councilmember Tanaka. Will you call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Medina,
Yes.
Councilmember Tanaka,
Yes.
Councilmember Kaskanian,
Yes.
Councilmember Henderson,
Yes.
Mayor Serta.
Yes. Next up is council directives. Does any member of the council have any directives at this time? Councilman Tanaka.
Yes, I'd like to make a directive that staff prepare an ordinance that would continue our current ban on the cultivation, on the delivery, transportation, and sale, and provide adequate regulation of household growing and other secondary effects of adult use for marijuana.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. Are there any other directives? Councilman Henderson.
Yes, I'd like to direct staff to create some language in regards to local hire as we have developments happening within the city to see what we can do to make sure that our community is involved in a lot of development going on in our city. So I'd like to see some language in regards to local hire within the community.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Well, if not, at this time, we'll move on to council remarks. First up is Councilmember Tanaka.
Thank you. Thank you. So as of our last meeting, I was lucky enough to attend the Little Tokyo Service Center's Nikkei Needs Assessment Forum at the JCI. It was a very informative forum based upon Asian resident and non-residents. Trisha Toyota, as a professor at UCLA, was there, and it was a pretty good presentation. I was lucky enough, for those that know Leonard Kim, who owns Cherry Stones, I was fortunate enough to attend his wedding this weekend in Honolulu. It was pretty cool. I'll be attending the Officer Dixon recognition dinner coming up Wednesday. And I'll be at the Gardena Volunteer Recognition Dinner on Thursday. I attended the District 2 Neighborhood Watch meeting, and I thank them for their information and questions. And I just hope everybody had a great Easter.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Councilmember Henderson.
Yes, real quick, Madam Mayor and council and community. Since our last council meeting, I had the opportunity to lead the Easter egg hunt at Raleigh Park. That was a great event, dealing with a lot of kids hunting for Easter eggs. If you want to see somebody that's really dedicated to what they're doing, watch children hunt for Easter eggs. That's a great thing. Also, since our last council meeting, I was honored to be in attendance of the Smithsonian's Channel's LA Riot's 25-year, I don't want to say anniversary, but viewing of the lost tapes of incidents that surrounded that actual riot/uprising in the community. So it brought back quite a few things in 25 years. So let's hopefully, as a community, as a society, we work to move forward to get past some of our socioeconomic issues and continue our goals of community policing. Also, beginning in May, we will resume our open City Hall agendas with Councilman Henderson. However, we're also going to have a twist to it. We're going to do In the Parks with Mark. So beginning Saturday, May 6th at 9 a.m. to noon, I will be in the bleachers on the Southeast Diamond at Raleigh Park. And that's just an opportunity. It's a casual setting, an opportunity for the community just to come out and speak, for me to listen to what's on your mind and concerns that you have. And then in June, we'll have our open City Hall like we were doing before. So every odd number month we'll be in a park. Every even number month we'll be actually here at City Hall. Want to make sure we give the opportunity for the citizens to share what's on their mind with their elected leader. Madam City, also I would like to congratulate my son Jared, who will be graduating this year from Fisk University with his Bachelor of Science in Mathematics. So we're very proud of him. That is the last one in college, so I'm very excited. He's coming home, so I hate that I'm going to miss the Cinco Mile, the Mayo parade this weekend, but I'm excited that he is leaving college, so that's a great thing. Yeah, very excited. So, Madam Mayor, that ends my report.
Thank you. Councilmember Kaskanian.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last meeting, I attended a few events. Month of April is Armenian Genocide Memorial, and it falls on the April 24th, which was yesterday. It's the commemoration day for the Armenian Genocide, and I attended 3 different events, and one of the events, City of Gardena came up and they thanked me on the proclamation that the City of Gardena issued about 2 years ago on the 100-year anniversary. On April 19, I attended an event at the LA County Metro Family District 13, and I was invited as a guest speaker. It was about 100 or 125 people, and I spoke to them regarding April the 24th, and I was very happy that I was talking to non-Armenians. So that, because all Armenians basically, they knew about the genocide. So I was very happy that there was Latinos, African Americans, Filipinos, and Asians that they work at the LA County, that they attend that event. So I was the guest speaker, and I was very happy again that I spoke to them and put them in the picture regarding the genocide. On April 23rd, I attended another meeting in city of Montebello, and the event was about almost 3 hours. I was invited as of elected official. Usually I go as of committee member. Now this time I was invited as of Gardena City elected official. The presence was Alex Padilla, the state secretary, was there. The state treasurer, John Chiang, was there. Congresswoman Judy Chu. Linda Sanchez, U.S. Congress representative. Congressman Adam Schiff. Congressman Ed Royce. State Senator Edrin Nazarian. And Anthony Portantino, state senator. And LA Councilman Paul Krikorian. And surprisingly, we had a special guest, Turkish human rights attorney Fatiha Çetin, that she was there, and she is the human rights attorney. I spoke with the State Secretary Alex Padilla a little bit, and he did congratulate me for my victory. And he said that every now and then he does visit Southern California, and he said he will be glad to come and see us one day. On April 24th, yesterday, I attended March for Justice. About a little over 60,000 people attended the march. Started at Park Pacific Park, at the West Los Angeles by Grove, and we walked towards the Turkish consulate. And in the march, it was the state California Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom, Congressman Adam Schiff, LA Mayor Eric Garcetti, LAUSD Board President Steve Zimmer, and some other officials, Adam Schiff, the congressman. So it was a great event. I spoke with everybody. I took some pictures with them. And it was a good march that a lot of people talk about what happened to the Armenians during the genocide, 1915, 1923. I do encourage everybody here to go watch the movie, The Promise. It will tell you regarding the genocide, what happened during the Ottoman Empire, falling the Ottoman Empire. So, Madam Serta, I would like to adjourn today's meeting in the memory of the 1.5 million innocent Armenians that slaughtered during the genocide, 1915, 1923. And that's will end my report.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Mayor Pro Tem Medina.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Since our last meeting, I had a chance to run the Beautification Committee, and we finally settled on some dates for our Concerts on the Lawn, or for those of you who know it as our Ice Cream Social. We have free concerts right in front of City Hall every month for the month of June, the month of July, and the month of August. So our dates are June 17th, July 22nd, and August the 12th. We'll have free ice cream, free cake, free coffee, and we'll have a 2-hour concert, usually from 5 to 7. So you'll be seeing flyers and emails about that in the future. And it's all free to anyone who comes, whether you live in Gardena or not. It's free to the public. And the Gardena Beautification Committee pays for the musicians that come in to play on those events. Also attended the Vector Control meeting a week ago, and the Zika eradication is not coming to pass. There's more and more sightings of Zika mosquitoes. For those of you who don't know about Zika mosquitoes, they affect pregnant women, especially when it comes to the deformity of their children if they get bitten. The biggest problem with Zika mosquitoes is the disease can be transmitted sexually, as well as not having mosquitoes be born out of sedentary water. They will stay under dark areas, under trees, under bushes, and they will live for approximately a year, where most mosquitoes don't live that long. So we're working very strong in eradicating that. We're going to do a very strong citywide education system that we're going to have with a lot of the homeowners associations, as well as some local districts that will, along with the police department, to educate the city of Gardena about the Zika mosquitoes. And it's something that is becoming a nationwide project for those of you who have never heard of that. But for those of you who Google, just Google Zika mosquitoes and you'll see how dangerous they really are. And needless to say, I will be attending the Cinco de Mayo parade this coming Saturday. Starts at 10 o'clock, and so will Councilman Tanaka, and maybe Mayor, and maybe Mr. Cascanyan. Yeah, he'll be there, but he's going to see his family comes first. And we will have some really great people there. We have the Alejandro Luna, who is the Grand Marshal, who is a 25-year broadcast producer, director, writer, and the Grand Marshal for our 31st annual Cinco de Mayo, as well as Diana Garcia, who won the Spanish version of The Voice in Mexico. And she is known as La Reina de Canción, which means the Queen of Song. And when you hear her sing, which she did at last Sunday's Cinco de Mayo coronation, she's an awesome singer. The girl is very young, 6'4", and can sing. Boy, could she sing. So come on by. We'll have the parade at 10 and all the social events and folklorico dancers, mariachis, and food and face painting will start at 12 at Fukai Park. And we will also bring back Mr. Juan de la Torre, who's been absent in the concert circuit for the past few years, and now he's making his comeback. So come on by and have a good time with us. I regrettably won't be able to attend the volunteers dinner because I'll have to be at the COG. And thankfully, Councilman Tanaka will take my place as a representative for the city since he's the alternate. And I'll be looking forward to hearing all about the awards. So that ends my report.
Okay, thank you. Since the last council meeting for myself, I had the opportunity to attend the anti-420 rally that was put on at Gardena High School by our high school task force and ADAP and GDAP, and I believe they also partnered with GGIP as well. And it was great to see young people out there encouraging other students as they came to high school. And this was early in the morning, at like 7:30 in the morning, encouraging students and parents about the effects of drinking and driving, using drugs or any type of prescribed medication to get high. And they were giving out a lot of great statistics, and they had posters for the parents and the kids to see as they were being dropped off for school on April 20th. They also had news coverage out there from Channel 5 and Channel 7, and even two vehicles that had crashed into each other as a result of somebody being high, unfortunately, on marijuana. So it was just great to see young people out there just kind of taking charge. And my understanding, this was the only anti-420 rally that was held in the nation on that particular day. So it was done here in Gardena at Gardena High School by our high school task force. So I just want to commend them for that. Also, immediately the next day, I attended Gardena High School. I was invited by the principal there to see some of the new changes that Gardena High School has done there. And it was really interesting to see, I guess, because since the last time I've been in high school many years ago, that the students are totally learning everything by computer and by phone apps. So some of the classrooms that I had the opportunity to visit, the teachers were teaching math by laptop, and the students, if they didn't have their laptop with them, they had an app so that they could keep up on their phone. And you know, it was pretty awesome to see that. I hadn't seen anybody do math on a computer or on their phone before. And the kids were very engaged with this. So every class from social studies, history, math, all their creative design classes, even their kind of like a print shop class, everything was being done by computer. So it was some of the new technology going into kind of taking over from the traditional way of teaching, and it was pretty awesome. And after speaking with the kids there, they just said they're very enthused about school now because they get to play around on computers and you know, laptops and use their phone as an app. So this was pretty exciting to see there. So those are two events that I attended since the last council meeting. As far as upcoming events here, I just want to remind everybody, as Mayor Pro Tem Medina mentioned, we do have our Cinco de Mayo celebration this coming Saturday, April 29th at 10 a.m. And it will begin on Gardena Boulevard in New Hampshire. Immediately following that will be the Cinco de Mayo festivities from 11:30 to 4 p.m. at Fukai Park. Also, I'd like to let everybody know that there's going to be a fair housing certificate management training workshop. And this is free, and this is being provided to all landlords, managers, property owners, attorneys, realtors, and anybody who works in the management consulting in regards to rental properties. And this is being done here at the Nakaoka Community Center on May 4th. That's Thursday, May 4th, from 12 to 4 p.m. Tonight, we're going to be adjourning in memory of a couple of individuals here. The first one that was just given to me a moment ago was, we'll be adjourning in memory of Yolanda Yvette Barnes. This is the daughter of Ethel and Gerald Barnes. And her funeral services will be this coming Friday, April 24th. And there'll be more information that I'll leave in the city manager's office in regards to if you would like to attend the funeral services and the repast that will for Miss Yolanda Barnes here. Also, we will be adjourning in memory of Mr. Lawrence Carter, a 75-year-old resident who lived in Gardena for 28 years, and he served with the United Methodist Men's Ministry. He was also on the Usher Board, Finance Committee, and Board of Trustees at the Holly Park Methodist Church. He also participated in the Clothesline Ministry at the Iglesia Presbyterian Bethsaida in Gardena, where they provided free clothing to individuals in Gardena. We'll also be adjourning in memory of the 1.5 million Armenians who died from 1915 to 1927. The next regular Gardena City Council meeting will be on May the 9th at 7 p.m., so we stand adjourned. Thank you.